Hello.
Microphone. Okay, hello everybody. My name's Sean. I'm Fire of Life 2018. Looks like everything's working. Sharon, are you here with us? Can you speak?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. They can hear you as well.
Perfect.
Okay, so hi. My name's Sean. I'm Fire of Life 2018, in case you missed that where I said it 5 seconds ago. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. Be here for the next time. We do this every Wednesday, 9 o'clock. We get together, we talk about what's going on in the world, trying to stay awake in the mind reading that is the media. I don't want to say brainwashing, but mind reading, maybe. Like, I was looking at the Google News, like I do every week, and if you go to the technology sector about that, like there's a whole section of Google News under technology, literally, like every other ad is something about Prime deals.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is stupid. They just made up a random holiday. Like, this is Prime being like, let's see what we can make up. They have retail has sales slumps in July, and every retail company I've ever worked for in my life has been like, what are we going to do in July? Let's make some crazy Christmas in July because we need to sucker people into buying gifts for stupid things. Prime deals, 100%. I just can't believe how many people have like gone into it about how awful the Prime deal situation is. But that's neither here nor there. That's just an example of why the media is nuts. I have picked out a few very fun news articles. I'm gonna see if I can share. If I share my screen in Discord, can you see it, Sharon?
Maybe. Go for it.
Because now I'm going to expand this video, and then we're gonna watch a little video. Actually, I have forgotten where I put the music. You know, I have 3 monitors, and I really feel like I need 4. Just saying.
Nice.
Just saying.
What's this
What's
button down here that keeps flashing at me?
What's the what?
Find study groups. Not the button I wanted.
Do you need study group, Sharon?
I do not. It just was. I'm sorry. Discord was like shining something at me, and I didn't know what it was.
An advertisement.
Sharing right now?
What?
Are you sharing your screen right now?
I am sharing my screen right now.
Then no, I'm not seeing it because I am on the app via phone.
That's sucky, because I'm gonna play a video.
I apologize.
It's gonna be a video of images from the James Webb Telescope, and their
Now I have seen those images today.
That's good. So it's gonna discuss it and give us a thing.
Years ago.
Okay.
These are the very first images captured by the James Webb Space Telescope. The deepest
Just for the
we've seen
stream.
into the universe, with alien planets, far-off galaxies, and the birth and death
I need
of
to look-
distant stars.
It's
But
really
this
pretty.
is just the start.
It's so
I'm
crazy
Claire
that
Riley, and I'm
we have the
CNN's
technology to
resident
see
space nerd. In this video, I'm
billions
gonna
of
break down
billion
everything
light
you
years
need to
away
know
into
about the
galaxies
James
of
Webb
unknown,
Space
but yet we get the
Telescope. From those
grainiest of
first
any kind of
images
security
to how
camera
it uses
ever.
infrared
That's
light
because
to
the people
see
who
the
bought that security
past
camera spent
and
no
what
money
it
on that
teaches
security
us
camera.
about
Like they
the
bought
universe.
$20 from Amazon.
That's very true.
On the 12th of July, NASA released the first 5 images from the James Webb Space Telescope.
But think
showing
about how
us
many,
the deepest and most detailed look into
like,
our universe
security
ever.
cameras there
The
are
first
in
big reveal
existence.
was
Like they might all be
Webb's first
grainy,
deep
but
field,
there's probably
an
20,
image of thousands of galaxies,
you know,
4.6
within earshot of
billion
you.
light years away. This is the furthest into our
You know
universe
what's
we've
crazy
ever
is I
seen,
look at
and
these
all that
pictures
detail is in
and
an
I,
area
you
of
know,
sky as big as
I
a
think
grain
about
of
it and
sand.
the
Next up,
question
we
that
see
always
science
comes up
data.
is there's no
Spectroscopy
way
from
we're
an
the
exoplanet
only like
captured when it passed in
living
front of a distant star. This data shows us evidence of
anything,
water on an
organism,
alien
if you
planet,
will.
1,000 light years away.
Oh, that's a
Our third
whole
image was the
a
stunning
whole
Southern
other.
Nebula, a dying star 25
I got a video
There's
for
no
that
way.
too. I got a video for that
Captured
too.
by 2 instruments on the telescope, NIRCam and MIRI.
I know you can't hear it
shows
playing in the
shells of
background, but the
gas and
stream
dust
can actually hear the
ejected
video
from a
playing in the
dying
background.
star. Next was a
Great.
group of 5 galaxies called Stephan's Quintet.
It looks cool,
This
I
is
gotta
Webb's
say.
largest image yet,
Except
with more than
my
150 million
shit is
pixels,
dropping
showing
out.
us what ESA calls a cosmic dance of galaxies, stars being born, and even outflows from a black hole. And finally, the most phenomenal image of them all, the cosmic cliffs
Whoa.
of the Carina Nebula.
Cosmic
This
cliffs
stunning
of the
vista
Carina Nebula.
reveals new
Whoa.
details about this vast stellar nursery. Today, for the first time, we're seeing brand new stars that were previously completely hidden from our view.
Ooh, that
In
looks
this
like
view,
the sci-fi
we see
art.
some great examples,
Like,
first of
just
all, of
clarity
hundreds of new
between the
stars that
Hubble
we've
and the
never
Webb.
seen before. We see
Right?
examples
Like,
of
Well, and how far
holes
the
and
Webb got,
cavities
how
and
so
jets
quickly,
that are being
too.
blown out by these newborn stars.
Mhm.
We even see some
Like the,
galaxies sort of lurking in the background.
The
out
Odysseys, the first
We see
two. No, there
examples of
was.
structures that
I saw an article
honestly,
about that
we don't even
earlier.
know what
But
they are. Like,
Voyagers
what's going
1 and
on
2
here? There's just
have just now
the data
gotten to
is
the
just
edge of
so
the
rich.
universe and are
These
about to end
spectacular
their.
images really represent the dawn of a new
mission.
scientific era, one powered by the
A
world's
dying
most
star's
powerful
final
telescope.
performance. Yikes.
So, what is the James Webb Space
Oh,
Telescope?
it's going over the James
Well,
Webb
it's
Telescope
essentially
design right
a
now.
big observatory orbiting the sun a million miles away from Earth that examines space through infrared light. After decades of development by NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, the Canadian Space Agency, and the European Space Agency, it was launched from French Guiana on Christmas Day in 2021.
So this is only 2021. Like,
It's on a decades-long mission to look at our whole universe.
This telescope was really initially designed to be able to look back in time and see the very first galaxies
Look
that were
back
born
in
after
time.
the Big Bang. So we're talking about looking back in time over 13.5 billion years into the past. So it will study how galaxies change over the
so let's talk about the look back in time situation. Like, do you understand how that's possible?
Meaning what?
The theory, like, this is basically Einstein's theory of relativity and the
Oh.
way light travels through the universe and how you can go back in time with a telescope.
Right?
I think that is fascinating. Andy Weir has a new book, the Hail Mary. It's one of those science-based fiction books you must read. It explains a lot of this in depth and is super fascinating. And when it's relevant, it's pretty nice. Just saying.
Hmm.
So check that out. Are we bored with this now? I feel like we've gotten bored with this. James Webb Telescopes is beautiful images. You should go check it out. I took that from CNET, but the next news article is about the successful debut flight of Europe's Vega C rocket. That's a big deal for them because since the war with Ukraine is still going on, all of the Russian satellites that Europe had been using for their GPSs and telecommunications have been cut off access to. So they had to launch their own satellites, and they just did that today. So go Europe. There's a comet coming through. The massive, strange comet K2 Turing is touring the solar system, surprising scientists as it goes. It's kind of like being able to touch something from the beginning of the solar system. One of the most distant active comets ever discovered is swinging past our planet this week as it makes its first ever journey towards the outermost reaches of the solar system towards the sun. Astronomers are watching the mysterious ice ball in awe, making new and frequently surprising discoveries along the way. It's kind of like being able to touch something from the beginning of the solar system, David Witt, the astronomer of the University of California, told Space.com. It's probably the most primitive thing in the solar system at this given time. There's a paper published on Space.com if you want to read it about why this particular asteroid is crucial. I just clicked on it to make sure that it wasn't going to hit us, so...
That's important.
But not clarity there. If it keeps surprising them, I often wonder what it's gonna surprise them with next.
Okay, there is this like really cool looking article / video about the ultimate fate of a star shredded by a black hole. Spaghettified at 22 million miles per hour.
If you share it with me, I'll put it up on the screen for the stream to see it.
Wow. Hold on. Everything's harder because I'm on my phone.
I'm impressed you can news surf and send it. And talk on Discord. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
I don't know if it'll let me.
What's the name of the article?
Here we go. Okay, I got it. Okay. And then I got to go to the chat. Hit paste. Boom.
Which chat you sent it to?
The one that I'm in, general.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Look at this video. It's crazy.
I will play said video. The spinning bit? Okay, now you can read the article if you want. Continue.
Oh, let me get back to that screen. I tell you, I'm doing great with just...
the things we can do with our computers now. Like, we do physically have little computers in our hands, so can't be mad at that.
Mm-hmm.
In case you're wondering where she sent that link, it was in the Discord. It's an open Discord for all of my server fans, so you guys can come see it there. I'll put the link in the chat. Also, don't forget to check out the YouTube. We have a YouTube. I basically just upload these live streams every week because one day I'm seriously considering running for office in 2023, and I might use this platform as a hey, get to know me better.
Yeah.
Keep in touch.
So this is actually published by the University of California, Berkeley. UC Berkeley.
I feel like that's like the home of lesbians.
And UCLA as well, but Berkeley too, sure. I
thought UCLA is Berkeley. Like it's like a derivative of.
Yeah. So a lot of colleges have sister campuses, right? Or satellite campuses. So for example, I went to the University of Michigan and the main campus is in Ann Arbor.
I feel like she wants to plug that whenever she gets the opportunity.
Always. We do have two other
campuses,
one in Flint and one in Dearborn. Now, there are some colleges where they have their satellite campuses they have their own mascot and their own colors that are different. Perfect example is University of Virginia. UVA, their main campus is in Charlottesville, as everyone knows. Their colors, they're the Wahoos, and they're
a bunch of Wahoos.
Yes, they're blue and orange, right? However, there is a UVA Wise. It is
just up the street.
It's in Wise, Virginia, which is a very small mountain town. Their colors are red and black, and I believe they are the Cavaliers. So you do have differences there.
You're such a wealth of encyclopedia information, collegiate.
Thank you. Sometimes I know what I'm talking about.
I often tell people that everybody knows something I don't know, and that's
Learn from each other. I don't know everything, and I love learning about things. So this is great.
hashtag Ravenclaw.
Okay, so this is an animation that depicts a star experiencing spaghettification as it's sucked in by a supermassive black hole during a tidal disruption event. Basically in
Spaghettification.
2019,
How'd they come up with that? Like,
I don't know. I think what it is like when you make a spaghetti noodle, I guess you stretch it out. I don't really know.
I wish I could. I would have called that like glass making.
Sure.
That's what it looks like to me. Have you ever seen them blow glass where they have like the drop off the
Okay,
end?
spaghetti's like that, but the way Asians, like Koreans, make noodles to make their noodle, it's a very similar process. And I think that's kind of where they're going with that. But you can't call it nudified. That sounds like a porno word.
Noodlified. I just feel like I'm a little the spaghettification. Like, really? That's a big ass word. Look, how many letters is that?
It's a lot of letters. In 2019, astronomers observed the closest example to date of a star that was shredded or spaghettified after approaching too close to a massive black hole. The tidal disruption of a sun-like star by a black hole 1 million times more massive than itself took place 215 million light years from Earth. Fortunately, this was for the first such event bright enough that astronomers from UC Berkeley could examine the optical light from the stellar death, specifically the light's polarization, to learn more about what happened after the star was ripped apart. Now, mind you, this also means that our star, which is the sun, if nobody knew that, right? It could into the sun one, and we will die. But not to be, dark about it.
Not if we get off the planet. That's what I keep saying. We have a limited amount of time to make humanity interplanetary or it goes extinct.
Right.
We were talking about that earlier.
But Sean, interplanetary is not enough. Like, there are 9 planets because we've decided that Pluto is a planet again, I believe. There's actually a 10th planet that they've discovered in recent years.
I mean, I'm sure there's a million. Like I just said, the Voyager just now got to the edge of the universe where the sun no longer charges its solar panels. Like it just got to the end.
So that's how far we would have to go to, and maybe further to, get away from the death of our star and all that may occur. So the universe it's vast. It's a mystery, and there's so much that we don't know. But I like learning about it, and I think there was a time when NASA was defunded, was it not?
Oh, there was a long time that I keep telling the joke whenever it talks about Elon Musk and like how far he's come in the past 5 years versus how far we've come in the last 50 years. Yes. My analogy for this is that NASA took a bunch of white men from a specific economy bracket, gave them $100 in a shoebox, and said, "Come up with some stuff." Elon Musk gave everyone, all races, creeds, ethoses, mindsets, an unlimited budget and said, "Come up with something as quick as you can."
No, I disagree there. There were, other minorities and women in NASA.
Yeah, but they didn't get the money. They didn't get the funding. They didn't get the headlines.
Well, we got the funding up until the 60s, right? Late 70s. I think people landed on the moon and then that was about it, right? We had a few accidents. We had the
Challenger.
The Challenger. Thank you. Why did I say Discovery? Challenger. That there's a lot of accidents and things, but I remember as a child, and I'm not old enough to remember the moonwalk or anything, but I remember, the astronaut. What's his name? Glenn.
Oh, Glenn Armstrong.
No, it's not Glenn Armstrong. That's Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong. Glenn.
He's like the first.
Rogers.
Now I have to look it up because I don't.
I'll Google it for the stream, and they're 9planets.org.
Oh, maybe it is Glenn. John Glenn. Who I didn't realize was an Ohio man, but that's okay. That's all right.
You'll forgive him this one time since he went to space. You, sir, saved your country. You're a hero, kinda.
Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot, and I don't know. I guess I find peace in two places, in the ocean and when I'm looking up into the stars, because there's so much, right? So I love that NASA's doing more things, and I think this is
Trying to go to the moon for a colony, trying to go to Mars. Like, I really think that by the time our star blows up, we will have become intergalactic.
I would hope.
Well, because they're already talking about faster than light engines. Like, we kind of have a theory for an engine that is fast as light and perpetual.
Yes. Which, if you've seen Top Gun, they test that theory. They test out technology that is faster than the speed of light.
Well, that's a movie, but okay.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, it's I'm sure it's not just based on fiction. I'm sure there are a lot of government projects we know nothing about.
You know that the government has already acknowledged they had a whole hearing about UFOs?
Does that not surprise me?
Well, I mean, there's something like 140 unidentified flying objects that have been recorded in the last 50 years, and they showed some video of some of these things, like from aircraft pilots, like, because apparently all the test pilots and stuff have cameras and stuff in their cockpits. And they've got, like, this video of this little sphere that looks like, I don't know, maybe the size of a volleyball, but it's super reflective on the outside, and it's, like, zipping around this jet as it's going Mach 3. And the image is not super clear because the thing is obviously moving super fast, but they freeze frame, and it's, like, right there. You see it. It's clearly a little silver ball, and it's whizzing around this plane. You're like, what the fuck? It could be doing that. And that's the kind of things that they're investigating, because they're like, what? There's 150 little sites like that? They're afraid it might be some kind of Chinese new weaponry. My theory is it's definitely some kind of interplanetary monitoring system. Like, there might be already a species of aliens above us that's just kind of keeping an eye on our planet, i.e. the Vulcans.
Right.
But who knows what the future is going to hold. And I really hope that we get to an interplanetary situation. Have you seen the Starship? Like, do you know anything about that?
No.
Elon Musk Starship? Hold on. That's some good news. That's going to blow your mind. SpaceX.
My city is growing.
Which city?
Nashville.
Oh, well, that's not surprising.
Out of control.
I'm really hoping that was going to be like a, hey, this is what it is. Well, there's the Wikipedia page. There's some pictures. So what Starship is it's the first ever mega rocket that's completely reusable. It also has these things that will give us it gives us centrifuge, so it'll give us gravity in space. So we'll be able to take the 5-month journey to Mars in the Starship. And he wants to build 1,000 of these Starships that can carry 200 megatons into space. Starship is a fully reusable, super heavy lift launch vehicle currently developed by SpaceX, an American astronomer manufacturer. It is the tallest and most powerful launch vehicle ever built. Starship is a 2-stage to orbit launch vehicle consisting of a super heavy booster stage and a Starship secondary spacecraft. The spacecraft has 4 main variants: cargo, crew, propeller, and propellant tanker, and lunar lander. Both Starship stages are designed for rapid use and vertical landing. Both use liquid oxygen and liquid methane for propellant and are powered by Raptor engines. Starship is designed to deliver 100 tons to low Earth orbit. Once in orbit, the spacecraft could be refueled by Starship tankers for transport in higher orbits or destinations in the inner solar system.
Yes, except I think they had a setback yesterday, it looks like.
Oh, their explosion. Let's hope. I mean, like, have you seen the movie Don't Look Up yet on Netflix?
No, I have not.
You should really watch it. It's a good movie for its own climate bit, but the tech billionaire, I don't want to ruin it. You gotta watch the movie. I don't want to ruin it for anybody else who has not seen it. But I'm building a survival shelter. I'm not sure that's gonna save us from an asteroid, but
I mean, you think back in like the 60s when everybody thought that hiding under the desks would save them from a nuclear bomb, but it's fine. It's fine.
I don't think anybody thinks that. I think, what else do you do when you see the mushroom cloud going off in the distance? Like, what, you might as well do something. Like, it gives you some kind of sense of like, I've done as much as I can to protect myself from this coming calamity.
Right.
Although I don't think that would be my choice. You're supposed to go find deep basement concrete. Like if you're in a skyrise, go to the boiler room, like go to the basement. That's what they say. But if you're within a certain amount of range for a nuclear bomb, you're not going to survive it at all anyway. So kiss your loved ones. Also, that's great news. We're gonna move on to COVID. The COVID variant. There's a new one, BA.5. Not so bad as far as symptoms goes, but super bad as far as transmission goes. There's also new studies out saying that the more times you get COVID, the more likely you are to get long-term COVID. So basically, it's like a stacking debuff if you gamers are out there. COVID's now a stacking debuff. Every time you get one, it's a little bit worse. Get your vaccines, get your boosters, keep yourself alive. That's all I can tell you.
I will say that, I work in a corporate office and there's people everywhere, and within the last month, the cases of COVID have actually risen, and we had the highest number of cases in the office building. And two of the people that recently contracted COVID, I actually worked very close with, and I didn't get it, and I was very surprised. But I talked to one of the people today, and they were vaccinated, but they didn't have their booster, and I'm vaccinated with a booster, so that booster is, I think, necessary.
I just stay away from everyone because our next story is about meningococcal meningococcal diseases. I'm saying that horribly, but I have a little video to play about that one too. There's apparently a big outbreak, and they're still blaming the gays. So,
of course they are.
Have you checked the website on CDC? It's awful.
Awful. A Florida lawmaker called on the experts for an important virtual discussion on meningococcal disease
Ukrainian
and
rockets
monkeypox outbreaks affecting our community.
Reportedly strike Russian forces.
Some people are
I'm playing a video for the stream right now. Sorry, Sharon. I didn't tell you that.
Sorry.
Health officials are investigating
Makes it hard
at least 24 cases of
I know.
meningococcal disease, including 7 deaths
Next
among
time.
gay and bisexual men in Florida.
There it is.
This outbreak in Florida,
And then of course they show.
the worst outbreaks of meningococcal disease among
I'm not gonna say it. I don't know that he's gay.
in U.S. history.
But anyone can still get the disease, not just gay or bi men. Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith called for this community health update to educate.
We have a good vaccine readily available at no cost to those at high risk that can protect against any further disease.
The CDC says meningococcal disease can first appear
Meningococcal.
as flu-like illness. Symptoms include fever, muscle ache, headaches.
That's the name of these disease type symptoms, and they have the same symptoms that basically anytime you get sick, these are the same symptoms: the fever, muscle ache, headache, stiff neck, sensitivity to light. Might be a more specific one to these particular cases, but I feel like I'm a vampire, so I'm always kind of not sensitive to light. But that's neither here nor there. That's another reason that you should not touch people and stay away. But I hate that they bring it up. Like, they talk about the gay sexual men and then be like, oh, but everybody can get it. We just happen to have more sex than straight people. Sorry, guys. That's what it is. That's what it is. Gays, the women are the gatekeepers of sex in heterosexual relationships. And there isn't one of those in gay relationships, so we have a lot more sex, and that just is how we spread things, especially things like this where it's about touching and kissing. Oh my God, I have definitely been kissed by a random stranger at a bar before.
Yikes.
Even before you can say no, you're just like, oh, hey, what's wrong with kissing me? And then you're like, whoa, that was inappropriate. And then he's just, oh, he's drunk. He's gone to kissing somebody else. Okay, great. All right. Guess the Molly's rolling in this club. Yeah, so that's how gays end up with it first. It's not that we're disease ridden. It's just that we're free loving. And when you're free loving, you get diseases. That's how it works.
Wow.
Because humans are gross. Like, if COVID has taught us nothing, it's that humans are gross. We shed skin, spit, eyelashes, hair, just leaving little bits and pieces of ourselves everywhere we go. We might as well be lizards. Just little pieces, leave little tails everywhere. Okay, so that's the end of that. My last news article I had for today was the Sri Lanka situation. How are you familiar with Sri Lanka?
The country, yes.
Are you familiar with the situation? Their fuel crisis, food crisis. They've been out of money. Basically, they've been protesting in the streets for months now, and they finally have stormed the capital and made the president flee the country.
Yeah.
This is huge. I would say that's the first domino. If you check it into like Italy, that might also be our second domino, and their economy was already pretty weak. So like we're already starting to see some weak economies crumble across the union, and I mean the union of our planet. Human union. So stay together, and I bring up again that I'm a survivalist planner. You should be too. At least 30 days of food. You need to have bottles, waters. Don't depend on the government to give you your food and water forever.
No.
I tell Brandon all the time, you need to have a go bag. Like, you need to have a bag full of food and clothing and, like, essentials for at least a week. Because you need to have that just in case you have to run away from somewhere. Like, what if you are in a situation where you're like, wow, there's a tornado warning coming in your area and you have to flee to a shelter. Trust and believe how much nicer it's going to be at that shelter if you have that go bag with a toothbrush and some mouthwash in it. And it's not that the Red Cross doesn't provide things like that, but you would still probably rather have your own, feeling self-secure, self-sufficient with your needs. So that's your advice for the day, is to plan your go bag. Have a week's worth of supplies of food for yourself in case you have to run away. I don't know how long it would take you to get here, Sharon, but that's how long you need to have. And bring seeds and guns. That's what I've said. If you,
okay.
In your travels, if you're coming along the way to Survival Island where I live, bring food and guns. I might make you throw the guns over first. Guns are price of admission. I have family members that have the guns that my father left, and I'm like, you have to come down to defend us if there's an apocalyptic event. That has to be a thing.
It looks like Sri Lanka is trying to negotiate with the IMF on a bailout plan.
Oh, but that was supposed to be China's problem. Oh, wait. China can't do it either because this is ridiculous. They have a mountain of debt. I feel bad for the people of Sri Lanka, and their government corruption has run so deep that they're even in debt. Like, they couldn't just take the money that was being revenued, they had to borrow money to steal.
Yeah, I believe it said that they needed No, hold on. They need $6 billion to stay afloat over the next 6 months. And they only have $25 million in usable foreign reserves.
And they don't have any kind of food or fuel.
Yeah.
That's the real problem for the people. Like, once you get to the point where people are starving in your streets, they're going to be really upset with you. That's just factual. Exactly. Ain't no way around it. And I mean, like, it's going to be this way with, like, the fact that Ukraine has these, like, silos full of grain, like, and Russia can't possibly be producing as much grain as they would normally because of the losses they're having in the field. Like, I'm sure a lot of their farmers have died in the field.
Yeah.
So Food's gonna be a thing. Food's gonna be a thing.
Here's something in the news. A state judge. I'm sorry. Whoop.
I told you to look for good news, Sharon.
A state judge temporarily blocked Louisiana from enforcing its abortion ban.
Oh, yay. That's some good news, I guess. It's shitty news that has to be a thing in the first place. So, like, have you seen the interview with the senator from West Virginia that caused all this shenanigans? Like, he was the reason who set this up in the first place?
No.
He basically is just saying that he agreed with the way Roe v. Wade. No, I'm sorry. That was the EPA guy. We switched. That was Roe v. Wade. I'm sorry. Different topics. This is the West Virginia senator who had the EPA's regulations repealed. And he said that he was taking that away because of the way it was achieved, but he didn't really disagree with the legislation that the EPA should have that authority. But he has not sponsored a bill to create that because he knows it wouldn't pass.
Yep.
And I'm like, but if you agree with it, why would you bother sending it down just because they got it poorly? Like, that's such a politician thing to say. And I'm so sick of all our government situation. I'm going to run for office in 2023, but I don't know how I feel like it's going to be too late. And I'm a little scared about what November of 2022 is going to be like. I usually work the polls. I'm not sure I'm going to this time. I think.
I mean, it almost seems dangerous.
That's what I was thinking. And I mean, like that poor woman that got accosted by Donald Trump's supporters when he named names about this person working at the ballot boy. He named names and was like, this person's stealing ballots, which was not true and still ruined her life. She was just some person volunteering to work. Like, you don't get paid a whole lot, and it's a long-ass day. You got to work from 5 a.m. in the morning to 10 o'clock at night sometimes. And if the recounts come in, like what they do in Georgia and shit, I always felt so bad for them in Georgia. You know, they don't get to go home until that's just counted. Like, if they had to stay overnight, they were sleeping there and shit, like, they don't get to go home.
Yikes.
I know, and then, like, to be all, oh, these people are doing, like, no. Anytime you say the election was rigged, you're looking at somebody like me who worked the polls, who counted the votes by hand to make sure they were right. Like, I did it because I care about it being correct. My district is a Republican district. There was a whole lot of Republican votes. I can still believe that 50% of the country voted for Biden. I just can't. Go ahead.
I think it's crazy that, like, in certain elections, like, we've won the popular vote and yet have lost the electoral. It's crazy to me.
The Electoral College makes me upset in the first place. The fact that it still exists. Like, I get that it was a thing that needed to happen in, like, the early 1800s when people couldn't really get around. Like, it took a long time to elect. Like, these electoral colleges are supposed to go around to their state and be like, hey, who do you want to vote for? What's the precincts are? All right, I'm going to go back to Washington and then elect in the right person. Because they didn't have all this shit where we didn't know what the popular vote was for the whole country instantaneously. This shit took weeks. That's why, like, the election happens in November, but the inauguration isn't until the January 26th, and then there's, like, it's January 20th, I think, is the actual inauguration. So it's months from the election date to when the inauguration is sworn in, because it used to take that much time.
Yep.
Now that we've moved beyond that, why are we still using the system? Like, we're going to start hanging up lanterns in lighthouses to tell us who won the presidential election now? Is that, like, what the fuck?
I agree.
It's the same reason they keep investing in coal power. Like, they want to make America great again, which was 1950, where we were polluting everything and pumping out single-use plastic at just no consequences.
Not to mention, you know, women were, quote-unquote, in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen.
I mean, right.
Forget Rosie the Riveter, right? That happened, 10 years prior. Forget Rosie the Riveter.
That Make America Great Again was only if you're a cis white male. That was
100%.
Only time that America's ever been great is if you were a cis white male.
I mean, people don't realize it's only been 100 years, not even really, since women had the right to vote.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, like, you talk about slavery, you talk about June 19th. Like, it's a whole nother ballgame about when our independence and liberties and all this shit. Like, think about the Native Americans. Like, if you were a Native American, this would be like every time you celebrate 4th of July, it's basically slapping them in the face.
Right.
So I mean, like, I would feel bad if I was a Native American in this world, but what are we gonna do but move on? Where I wish we stopped labeling people. I've decided that, like, I just finished the Red Cross's diversity training, yeah, and they had the LGBTQ plus situation, and then I watched some comedians on Netflix, and they're talking about the LGBTQ is now LGBTQAI plus. I'm like,
it's LGBTQIA plus.
I think all the labels are just dividing us further. I really think that we need to be just. I'm like, I don't understand why we need to be having a sexual label and identity conversation with literally everyone. Is it appropriate to talk about sex at work?
No.
How is it appropriate to talk about sexual orientation at work?
I don't know if it's necessarily that you talk about sexual orientation. I think it's, hear me out. A lot of it has to do with people that have had to live a different sexual orientation historically have had to live in hiding, couldn't be who they are, couldn't, whatever the case. And I understand your point of view, right? Your point of view is like everyone should be on equal footing no matter what, take away the labels, but humans aren't like that, right? And some of this is trying to overturn or trying to make up for years past, right? So did you just whisper to me?
No, I whispered to the dog. He's trying to chew on his foot. He's trying to chew on his foot. I was like, stop that.
Yeah. So and that's the thing, right? A lot of this is and you and I had a very long conversation about pride, a couple weeks back, and
because it makes me the whole thing at this point makes me upset. Like, it's gotten to the point, especially with like discrimination, we've got laws in place that if you're being discriminated at your workplace, you can seek legal action.
But it's not even at the workplace, right? It's also about the social aspect. How many people in that community still can't, come out to their parents and not feel the consequences. So, how many suicides are there, and all of these things still happen. And having that support, my thought process is having that support wherever it comes from, it should come from them, right? Now, do I think that a company should, profitize off of that? Absolutely not. Which is why one of the reasons why I like the company that I work for is because we sell a shirt for Pride, right? That represents Pride, but all of the proceeds for that shirt goes to the Trevor Project, which,
we're not going to get into it because they probably also put it up as a display to lure people into the store.
No, that is only available on our employee website.
Oh, well, then good for them.
That is not available to the stores.
If they're not merchandise, good for them then. I mean, I don't think the company you work for is a bad company, but there are tons of bad companies out there.
I agree. There are tons of other companies that, profitize different social events. I mean, Cinco de Mayo, St. Patty's Day, it is a thing. We just recently tried to launch Juneteenth, and one of the comments I said as part of the organization that I'm in is I do not want, and I'm sure many people in the Black community do not want Juneteenth to be seen as a holiday like we treat every other holiday at this point, right? Where it's commercialized and appropriated and it's a big party and then that's it, right? Which is why I think education is important. And the more people bring awareness to it, the better. And yes, there are a lot of corporate sponsors that have Pride, but at the same time, why not? Why not have a corporation that is far-reaching? And again, it depends, right, on what the message is, who they are, right? My company, as you know, is great for that because we genuinely care about social issues and injustices, right?
I mean, but we got off the topic of this because the conundrum is, how do you talk about sexual orientation at a workplace when you're not really supposed to discuss sex? And how can you discriminate against it if you're automatically assuming that someone has that preference?
It's not even about sex, right? I mean, sexual orientation, yes, but think about it. It's about partnership and marriage, right? It's not just about who you have sex with, it's who you partner with in life, right?
Right. I mean,
Doesn't
like
that
the verbiage in all these legal contracts should definitely be like the person you choose, and like it should definitely be open and inclusive for all your policies and HR inclusives and all that. But the official stance around like the water cooler ought to be don't talk about it.
they don't talk about sex, but you talk about your partner, right?
I would say the fact that I put out that I am gay gets more comments about my sex than my dating.
I think that depends on where you are, right? I think it depends on. I have, people that are married and they say this is, it's a female employee and a female coworker, and they say this is my wife. Now, for me, that means nothing to me, right? I don't make a deal. I don't even ask, are you gay or straight? Because that's none of my business, and it doesn't really matter to me whether you are or you're not, right? If I
Right.
meet your boyfriend or girlfriend, if for example, if you had a boyfriend, right, and I didn't know your orientation, whatever that may be, we're very good friends, and you said to me, hey, this is my boyfriend, blah blah blah, I would be like, oh great, nice to meet you. Like, it would mean nothing to me, right? Because I don't need to know
You
one
heard
way
it
or
here,
the other.
you heard
It's
it here
It's
first,
normal.
folks. I'm dating blah blah blah. I do think that should be normal. Like, I wish there was more things in television about, like, like your neighbors, they just meet and it's just, oh, hey, that's John and Sean. They live next door. They wave. They're a gay couple. And it's not even like a blip. It's just that they exist and it's there.
Right.
I get really tired of the whole stereotypical play out of every time there's a gay person on television, they have to go through I came out, my struggles and journeys. And
But I think it's because you have to realize it's because it's only been in recent history that that was not the case. That it was you were looked at. I mean, this is me telling you how you're feeling, and I'm not even really in the community. I'm an ally, but like, you're being seen as less than. And the reason I mean, I can relate because I'm a woman. Women are always seen as less than all the time. We're second class, you know. I'm also Asian American, so we're not we're it's funny because we're Asian Americans are known as the like perfect immigrant, if you will, which is it's such a crazy concept. Like, it's crazy to me.
I
And
think
it
it's just
bothers
because
me so
the
much.
Asian culture is so respectful. That's why.
No. No, 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 no. Well, I mean, yes, but no, it's because we're the immigrants that don't make trouble, quote unquote.
That's because
Right?
y'all are insidious. You don't make trouble. You're just back there with a clipboard taking notes, and then, oh, I have a suggestion. I
Okay,
think they're patient. Asian people are patient in their changes.
You have not met my mother, obviously. But again, stereotypes, right? These are stereotypes. And it's funny because we get discriminated against all the time from multiple different races, minorities, and the majority
But
across the board.
you called that earlier. That's human nature. We label, we put people in a box, and then we have got the stereotype that it exists.
Yep.
That's not ever going to change, and the fact that we get to discuss it openly these days is really what's causing all these divisions. Like, we at the Red Cross don't do any of that. You're not allowed to talk about anything sex, religion, race, politics, any of that related. It's more like, do you need help, and how can I help you? Stay on task, stay focused, stay motivated. And
But you don't think the conversations should be had?
I do not. We're not here to talk. Like, if you're talking about your partner or whatever, bring it up. Talk about your family. There does not need to be a separate conversation of, oh, hey, I'm gay. This is my roommate. This is my partner.
Well, I think there's less and less of that as we're normalizing,
Right. That's why I think we've moved
But-
beyond the fact where we need to keep
But
bringing
we're not
awareness.
there.
We should switch over to normalization where it's not even like, I had a little girl come out to me that apparently my friend Carrie thought was like a big deal. Like, I feel like there was a meeting set up so she could come out to
But-
me, and I went, yeah, okay, that's cool.
But every person struggles with that, right? And that identity and whatever, and certain.
Oh
I-
God. Oh God.
Listen, the problem with normalizing something is that not everyone is like you and I, where we're open and we've accepted it, right? That's the other thing is you have to.
That took a
you
long
have
time to get
remember
there.
There's still a lot of opposition. I mean, seriously.
There's opposition to everything you do in life.
Yeah,
That
but you can't.
is just life.
I understand, but you and I are very different in the sense that we don't react, right? Because it is what it is, and it doesn't bother us one way or the other. But we've already accepted that and try to move on. The problem is acceptance. there are still many people that do not accept that of these differences, if you will.
Well,
And so
that's because of the
therefore,
labels.
you're telling whether there's a label or not, they're going to be able to see that.
If we were all just pansexual and were free to explore our relationships with same sex, multiple sex, or whatever, it will happen. In 100 years, I guarantee we're all going to be pansexual. Especially in America, maybe not in the world, but especially in America, in 100 years, by the time you and I are dust and ashes, they will be all like, yeah, hole's a hole in the dark, bro. Slap, high five, Frenching, doing whatever. Because you talk about ultimate human nature is breeding,
right?
Reproducing and surviving to keep your young.
Hold on, you're the only viewer?
I'm not viewing. It's not me.
Oh.
I can't. My frames are already dropping enough that I can't stream out. Like, I'm kind of glad you're not video chatting, because I certainly couldn't maintain it because of the internet quality out here.
I don't see any chats. Has there any been?
No, I have it up. If somebody wanted to chat, they could chat. I mean, the likelihood that it's my mother watching this is high. Or she's probably not actually watching. She just has the phone up upstairs playing it for me because she's supportive like that.
Yay for supportive mothers.
Ain't that the truth? I'm super blessed to have had the parents that I have. I can't be mad at that.
And not everybody has, and I think that's kind of where we're at.
Well,
I
mean, like, my dad was not okay with the gay. We didn't really, I didn't come out until I was 25 and had left the house many times, but I had my whole life, somebody had been, shoving down my throat, are you gay? Are you gay? Are you gay? Are you gay? And I still don't really think that I'm gay. I'm probably closer towards the asexual side, with maybe a preference towards the company of men.
Interesting.
I definitely prefer the male body form to women in, the abstract. Like, if I was going to draw something, I would draw a male as opposed to a female. But the whole situation is hard to explain. And the fact that I hate that I have to explain it literally every time, all the time, because mine is not one of the LGBTQs.
I get that.
And I don't really want to. Every time somebody's like, what sexual orientation are you? I just go with gay, because it's just easier. It's none of their damn business what the real, sociology and psychology behind my partner choices are.
Sure. Oh, interestingly enough, when we did this Pride event that I started at work, and we had this, it was great actually, and because everything I do, there has to be some information, education thrown out at people, because education is important. FYI, information is key to success in life.
Information is key to success in life?
I think so. I think the more informed you are, the better decisions you make.
The more information you have, it's usually better to make a decision with. A lot of times on that chart of life, the graph opposite knowledge is time.
Think about it how I'm just switching topic to topic, but think about how much things would be so much more different if people were actually educated.
I mean, right? I've often said that if I were to become some kind of elected official, I would 100% fund education more. But the conspiracy theory behind all that is that the Republicans are intentionally trying to keep us dumb. So
the less educated you are, the more ignorant you are, and
especially in the church's side.
Sure. I mean,
I hate to be that guy.
I see now, I go to church. I love Jesus. I'm all about that life. But grew up that way. But it took me a long time to try to figure out how to balance my love of science, right, and my love of faith.
I think you can have faith without a church. I don't like that whole business where you when you go to a church, you're paying for fellowship.
Which is important. You should have fellowship, but I feel it's also about finding the right church. I think that's something that I wish somebody had taught me in a younger age, is about finding the right church.
That makes sense.
Because
it's a people, you're really going to a group of people with your same beliefs.
So I've been going to a non-denominational, and the pastor is just, he's amazing. and he just speaks to me, and it's very like a life lesson type situation, right? They're very accepting of people. Um, and then while I was on this search for a new church here, I went to this town's Southern Baptist Church. No, it was I'm sorry, First Baptist Church, which is even worse.
I'm sure that was an experience.
And I've been to many of Baptist churches. I've been to many First Baptist churches. I've been to a Korean Baptist church. And it really, the experience I had that day was crazy. It threw me back into these like PTSD from when I was a kid, to be honest. And that day that I was there visiting, they had the people of, I think it's like the Gideon's army that like passes out Gideon, like the Gideon Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt very business-like, for one, and for two, the message was crazy to me. I just was like, I was just blown. And it's funny because the reason I went to this church, I went to the non-denominational first, right? And I really enjoyed it. But what I didn't like about it, I thought, was that it broke away too much from tradition, right? It was a satellite church. So the message was recorded on camera, and it was, recorded on camera. So it's not like the pastor could look into my eyes. And I do love that one-on-one connection, right? But I talked myself out of going to that church because it wasn't traditional. And then I realized that as I check all these other churches out, that's the message I kept coming to. I kept listening to his messages online, and I enjoyed that experience. And you could tell that this place was filled with people, which you go for fellowship as well, and learning together and prayer together and all this stuff. But they were filled with like-minded people that had a love of everyone. And that's important to me. I think as a Christian, you should have love for everyone, sinner and non-sinners alike.
So what's the difference between a church and a cult?
Oh, it's a very good question, right? It's a very fine line, I'm sure.
I couldn't tell you. That's definitely a question. If anybody out there in the universe wants to chime in, by all means, because I don't know. And I think I can understand the Christian religion. I don't want to downplay your beliefs.
Sure.
But churches themselves are kind of like banks. They're like the institutions themselves are a drain on financial resources because they exist.
But they do good work too, right?
Some of them do, and that's like, I can't even tell you, working with nonprofit organizations over the years that I have done so, how many times you go to a church thinking, oh, they're a church, they'll let me use their chairs, oh, they'll let me use their lawn for whatever, they'll let me do, how many times the churches say no to other nonprofits trying to use their stuff because of this or because of that, and it's just BS reason because the pastor or leader of that organization is only in it for the money, is only in it for his Sunday weeklies, driving away in his Lexus.
Right. Which is why the advice I give is to do your research and visit multiple churches before you land on one. And if that is the advice I would have gotten when I was younger, I think I would have had a very different spiritual journey. I mean, I would have still had a spiritual journey, but I think that I would have been able to reconcile my love of science and facts and my love of, math and things like that, and be able to reconcile that with my love of faith, right? But faith is also your own journey, and the fellowship is nice, and ultimately I think the way to go are like these non-denominationals, or but figure out what their beliefs are. That definitely helps out too. I have a friend that goes to a Lutheran church, and it's crazy because it's an older church, but
right.
It's
like the original Protestant.
Yeah, but they're very big about being allies to the LGBTQ community, and they're accepting of everyone, and I love that, and I think that's great. So I think it just depends. It depends on the church and creed.
Most of the churches throughout history have been evil.
I don't know if I could agree there.
I mean, I didn't say all. I said most, because you look at, like, I think the Catholic religion is pretty huge and has been corrupt for most of its existence.
I could agree with that. Catholicism is definitely
awful.
I mean, it's got some.
Real Catholicism with like Felices and like real Catholicism is awful.
Yeah.
So that's been around for the longest. Like, you talk about brainwashing. Have you been to a Catholic service before? My Aunt Janie used to be Catholic, and she used to make us go to midnight masses on Christmas with her, where she'd go and get communion.
Yeah.
And that is 100% like a machine brainwashing factory line. It reminded me so much of like the scene from Doctor Who where people are lined up to go into the robot factory where they actually get mutilated and turned into robots. I was like, oh, that's what 100% this is. They're just walking up there to get their little body of Christ, and I'm like, that's a wafer cookie. I was like 10 at the time. It was like an interesting experience. But I've been to a lot of religious ceremonies. Like, I've been to a Wiccan religion ceremony. I've been to this like moon goddess celebrations. I've been to several Protestants. The Pentecostals are some of my favorite to go to because they're entertaining. People get up and throw themselves in the aisle, start flopping around and stuff. Like, I got the spirit. It is entertaining to go to a Pentecostal service, but only if you like to people watch because they're nuts. I've been to a snake charmer services, but I sat well in the back.
Interesting.
I took a religious studies course in college, like my early days at CVCC, Harvard on the Hill. And one of the extra credit assignments was you got points for going to services. So like every week you could go to a different service and get the pastor to sign off everything, and then you could turn it in and get credit for that, like towards your grade at the end. So I love going to services like that. I think it's super funny, but only if they're new. I don't like going multiple times because they're like, oh, this is old and boring now that we've done this another time. Because every religious ceremony has its ceremonial aspects to it, and they really do hit those brainwashy notes. I gotta say,
Right.
like all of them hit that brainwashy box.
Interesting.
So that's my thing. I definitely used to be religious. Had a religious like coming out situation when I was in Hawaii, when you just have to reconcile that. Like, am I too smart to be religious? Like, there obviously is a 1.1% chance that your creationism is the correct one, and faith ultimately is believing that that is the correct one. So I get it, and I understand, but logic kind of counteracts that. Like, why believe in the 99.9% possibility? Well, I guess in the 0.001% possibility.
Oh my gosh. I just saw, sorry, not to change the subject again.
It's probably time.
But I just saw this Instagram
you're
post.
as bad as Brandon.
Hold on, listen. It says it was so a friend of mine, right, got a text message. It's one of those spams. It's a political spam. It says, "Hey, I'm Jeremiah with Students for Life Action. I have great news. Representative Steve Carra has introduced the strongest pro-life bill in all of Michigan. His protection at it's great. His protection at conception bill would protect babies from the moment of conception and ban all deadly chemical abortion drugs. It's important your leg," and then there's a view all. And so the response is, LOL. Can I swear on here?
Yes.
Okay. LOL, fuck you and your evangelical. Wow, I can't speak English today. But you know what I mean. Evangelical, damn. Fascist groupies, tell your leaders to do something about maternal death rates and all the shit kids need after birth. It's a woman's choice, you dick. Don't ever message this number again. I think that's hilarious.
Nice. The Pope officially came online and told people what he felt about the abortion situation. He said that all life is precious and should be protected. And I was like, why didn't that follow up with bring all your unwanted babies to the nearest Catholic church and we'll take them? If that's really how he felt about it. You act like the Catholic Church doesn't have enough money to fund orphanages everywhere. Like they.
Right.
if they could at least be doing something of that sort. If it's really the stance you're going to take on it, even the Republican situation, you need to come up with a bill for all these pregnant. Like, how many? Let's look it up. How many abortions we had in the United States last year?
A lot, right?
Well, I mean, but in 2021, no, I gave me a whole chart.
I thought the number of abortions was declining.
I mean, it looks like it. Like there was in 1980, there was lots of introduced abortions, like 1,297,000, and by 2019, it had already been down to 600,000 because we have better prophylactics. We have better, like, care now, so that shouldn't be a big deal. But still, that's 600,000 babies that we need to do something with. Like,
Right.
that's a big deal. Why let I don't know, especially if you're like, we talk about we're getting into genetic splicing and things now. I mean, they can literally test for genes that are like Down syndrome and high cancer rates and like things that are like, if you were going to have a baby and you found out for like a 80-20% chance they were going to have some debilitating disease, like they were malfunctioned, malformed, weren't going to be, like, we're basically going to be a burden on you your whole life.
Right.
Do you continue with the pregnancy?
I don't know. I don't know if that's a decision I would make.
But now you don't have
at the moment.
now you don't have the choice.
Exactly. And so that's why I'm upset about it.
So that's the whole point, is that Sharon is probably not one of those people that would want to kill her unborn child for
No.
any reason,
that's
shape, fashion, or form.
So,
But she
okay,
still
so-
would be for the option. That's what that's what people don't seem to get, is it feels like you're like, oh, you're pro-choice. Well, you're a baby murderer. No, I'm just for letting people
right.
make their
So,
choices.
That's what bothers me. And you know, I went on a rampage about it a couple weeks ago when everything happened. You
Which
remember?
you can see on the video on demands from the previous weeks. I think it was 2 weeks ago when that first happened.
Yes.
She
I
did
was
she did
only-
go on a rampage. It's available.
I was only for a short amount of time because I had, you know, prior engagement, but I wanted to.
I
come
usually
in and
only do these
support.
for a half hour anyway.
Oh, well, we've passed that mark. That's for darn sure. But
That's
I would like
fine.
to say that that's what makes me upset is everyone thinks that because I'm pro-choice, I'm anti-life. Pro-choice does not mean anti-life. I myself would not make that decision, but that doesn't mean that it's you know, the government's right to tell us to make whatever decision. Now, on the flip side of that too, and it's funny because it's the one thing my sister and I agree on. My sister and I are very opposite. We have very different beliefs on political beliefs, on
Literally everything
economic
else.
beliefs. Like we literally are just the complete opposite. We get into very large fights. We've tried to take politics off the table, but it's very hard for me to not talk about politics in my household because I just get very passionate.
For
Just
you,
FYI.
whew. I feel like I'm driving away all my friends. Being a
Oh
climate
my
change activist is even worse than being a political activist these days.
Oh, I'm sure. So, but the one thing my sister and I can agree on was the travesty that is this decision that was made. And it's because, you know, I don't want to be telling her business around, but we did technically have a loss of a child at I think we lost him at 24 weeks, and he had to be delivered because you can't carry a dead baby full term and all of these things. But technically the procedure that had to be done could be considered, it's the same procedure as you would an abortion, even
Right, and
though
banned is
the
banned.
child was not right. So my sister, who is a stout Republican, I mean, like, she definitely is,
That's
would have been able to be convicted because of this. Like, and I'm going to tell
would
you,
your sister ever come on the show?
I don't know. Maybe I could ask her.
If I promise not to yell at her and diminish her beliefs?
I don't know. First of all, if you can do that, I don't think you could do that.
I have a mute button.
Maybe, but you know, the thing about it is I have had other people that have lost their children, and you know, it's a mental thing that you go through. But could you just imagine mentally what these women would have to go through in the other direction. Like, if you had to carry a dead child full term. That's what people aren't understanding. It's not just about having a late abortion that's a live child, or like I saw an article about a woman that could feel her baby having a seizure every day. Every day.
Knowing that baby's not going to survive, but is technically alive.
Technically alive, but is having seizures every day. As a mother, and I know my mother specifically would never want me to ever feel any suffering or pain or whatever, And so there's just a lot of things.
Rough world.
It's not just about the abortion. And honestly, it's not even just about the abortion and all that surrounds it. It's also about your private rights as a citizen. You talk about free speech and you talk about freedom of the press, and we have HIPAA laws and all of these things. And there are people that talk about, well, you can't force me to wear a mask and you can't force me to be vaccinated and all of these things. And yet there's no body autonomy. Now you're setting that precedence for no body autonomy.
That's what I said. Like, all these anti-vaxxers should have been up in arms about this Roe v. Wade situation, but
somebody was like, it's because you're killing babies. And I'm like, you guys, stop reading into, that's not what this is all about. And honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, what this does is not necessarily decrease the number of abortions. It's going to do two things. One, it's going to increase the number of unsafe ones, right? Because women will find a way. People find ways to get things that they want all the time.
I mean, there's a joke about pushing people down the steps for a reason.
Right? Because that literally happened, right?
That was a thing. Oh my God, girl, you pregnant? You mean push down the steps was like a real threat.
It was a real thing, right?
Because, well, I mean, like, and we got to think about these babies. Like, if you got, like, you're a college kid, you got drunk, made bad choices, got pregnant, and are now stuck with that baby for the rest of your life with no support system. Like, you're not going to get WIC, you're not going to get welfare, you're not going to get anything. What kind of life is that child going to live? Like, it might be the one that discovers the cure to cancer, but probably not if it can't afford to go to college.
And and a lot of these places that have these strict laws have a horrible social programs. Like, they're like the lowest in the country.
Also the worst education programs.
Yeah. And anyone's like, well, you can do adoption. But the problem with that too is that the adoption process, you refuse to give and allow two males or two females or whatever, that's not a traditional man-woman situation, to adopt a child. Like, that doesn't make sense. No historical action and no current action, right, shows that you actually care and that you actually think all lives matter. And on that same subject, you're telling me that if an infant or whatever in your womb can breathe and has a heartbeat, then you need to protect its life. So what about a comatose patient? Technically, that infant in me could not survive without me, right? It is connected to me, literally, right? Without that connection, it would die immediately. So you're telling me that when you pull the plug off of a comatose patient, that's okay.
Okay, so now some interesting facts for you. The median age of a foster child is 6.1 years old. The number of foster youth nationwide is roughly 400,000. At least 40% of foster children have learning difficulties. Foster kids are suspended, expelled from school 3 times more often than other children. Foster youth is less likely to graduate from high school. Between 3 and 10% of foster care alumni have a bachelor's degree. 20 per thousand children between 18 and 21 age out of the system yearly. And 50% of foster children have no earnings within 4 years of aging out and are those who do have an average annual income of $7,500.
All of these conservatives talk about social welfare and not having enough and all of these things, and yet you continuously put people in that situation.
Our education system is garbage. No, we're not setting up the youth for success, and we've been failing at that since my era. I mean, like, my school, I look back at it now, and I think I had a really great school, but that's because I didn't go to a city school, and I had teachers that cared.
Right.
Not because
And
the
I had a
education
great
system was there.
education because I went to educations in different places around the country and the world.
I feel bad for people who got stuck in, like, if you happen to be born in a red state, I guess they're not even paying for you to move. Like, are they gonna, like, is the government gonna start giving subsidies when you're like, oh, I was born in the wrong state. Can I move to a blue one? Where should I go?
Right. And that's
Like,
the other thing, blue-red situation, you know?
don't get me started.
Ugh.
You know, I told you that I emailed the Democratic Party about my race because I feel like my ideals closely align with them, but my fiscal policies definitely do not.
I definitely feel that I am what I like to say is socially liberal and fiscally conservative.
And that's such a hard thing to be as well.
So hard.
Like, I have people that I work with in the Red Cross that are Republicans, and we try to talk about it because it's against the policies, but obviously I have troubles, and other people have the same troubles on the other side. And especially when somebody else brings it up and makes a horrid, awful remark, you have to bring up something. And one time, I was told that he was standing there. He had just given me a Mickey Mouse doll and said, yeah, if you ever have little girls crying, then just give them this, and they love little Mickey Mouse. Like, he obviously loves children. And then I had just heard on the way up there an NPR story about this Mexican family that was fleeing Mexico because they had a drug cartel, drove by, collected all the men between 18 and 40, and said, hey, if y'all are still here next week, we're going to murder you all with your own family members.
Oh, gosh.
So she's fleeing the border and trying to hand over her baby to this border guard who's got a gun, being like, back away from the fence, back away from the fence. And I'm thinking, if this guy was standing on the other side of that fence, watching that little girl trying to get handed over, he would have took that little girl and gave her a little Mickey Mouse doll. Like, he loves kids. These people are people, just like everybody else. And if you were seeing that, you wouldn't allow it. How dare you ask someone else to do that for you? And God Almighty, we're letting the Ukrainian refugees roll in just because they're Ukrainian. I guess because they're white. Just let them roll on in. Mexico border, like, there was an NPR story where they compared the two border crossings, and like the Ukrainian ones got all kinds of shit, like donated blankets and food and water and snacks and air conditioning and all this shenanigans, and nobody's in it because they're processing them so quickly. But the Mexican one, it's like 100 meters down the road, is the same building with none of the supplies, overcrowded, one person working there.
Isn't that crazy?
Like, that's fucking ridiculous.
What's insane to me is, that's another thing. We talk about immigration, and obviously immigration is very big for me, as you know, I come from an immigrant myself. And so the thing about it is I understand legal immigration because I know that my mother, you know, had to jump through hoops, but the infrastructure is just not conducive at all.
But that's an American hallmark, is that jumping through hoops and pay mark.
Everything is right. Everything is broken.
Everything is broken.
The court systems are broken.
But they're doing it on purpose. Like, they imprison people and then make you wait for a trial for 30 days, but most of us can't live that long. So, like, if you got abducted by the government tomorrow and held for 30 days pending a trial, what would happen to your apartment and your job, your car?
Right.
So when you get back released for your not even doing anything, your whole life is ruined.
Yep. Yeah.
So, and you think and they do it to people of color a great deal more than white people.
Exactly.
So we're peddling that system into the ground. It's awful. And I mean, like, I'm serious about the doomsday preps. I'm serious. I don't know what else we're gonna do. I don't really think I'm gonna make it to be able to run in 2023, and I don't think I'm gonna change the world by running for county supervisor. So I don't know if we're gonna make it to 2024 because Donald Trump is definitely trying to run for office again.
Oh my gosh, I see billboards all over Nashville right now. It's crazy.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Are you watching the trials? Like, there's so much evidence, like factual text messages, recordings, testimonies. Like, he was literally filming a documentary about himself. Like, he gave access to this filmmaker who then turned over all his film to the Congress. Now they're playing it, being like, yeah, this is Donald Trump said this about this person. He's on camera saying it to this guy that was going to be in his documentary. I still have followers that don't believe. Like, I've gotten comments I've discussed, and people call these hearings sham. And I'm just like, what would it take to get you to believe that Trump did it? And he's like, nothing. Nothing could ever get me to believe that. And I'm like, you don't see that as an issue? And he's like, not at all. Like, the man is trying to show corruption, and he's doing that. And I'm like, that's for sure. But, like, the fact that he's getting away with all this shit is blowing my mind.
Yep. All right. It is officially.
Yeah, we're well over. So let me end it out. So thanks for being here today, Sharon. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Oh, this was a good show. This was a good show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow everybody. We'll see you next time. Say goodbye, Sharon.